just means that there needs to be some kind of plan that it's like, okay, because and the thing that I was going to say in my video was specifically that I actually think that would help out games as a service games, because especially with MMOs, people are hesitant of investing their time and money into a new MMO because we've seen so many come and go. Right. And imagine if it's like, well, if that doesn't happen, I still have my character. I can go host this on my own server. I can tweak this, and now I've got a private server for this game that I was enjoying. Like, I think it would help to alleviate some of that fear that players have, going like, well, if it shuts down, everything, all the stuff I bought on the cash shop is gone. All this, et cetera, is gone. It's like, So I actually think it would be having some of that would actually benefit MMO players, because all we're talking about is, hey, all right, you want to shut down the game? That's fine. You as a company, I don't want to sit here and make you go into bankruptcy and insolvency. However, public domain. I think that is essentially, that's my solution, and that's essentially what I was thinking about all that.
And it's not like that huge of a deal. I mean, it would take a little bit of quite a bit of dev time. But like, if you're going to shut down, let's say, for example, if they shut down Final Fantasy 14, they could export the table object for your character, the multiple tables that they have, I'm sure, send you an email attachment with like a zip file or something. And then when you want to play on a public-private server, you know what I mean? Community private server, you send them that attachment and go, hey, can you add this? That's my character. Like, that's not that huge of a deal. And we have not legal precedent, but we have an example of an MMO that kind of did what Stop Killing Games wants them to do. Dot Hack Fragment was an MMO for PlayStation 2, Japan only. On the disc was an exe file that ran a server on your PC. Now, it takes a little bit more configuration, but once it's configured to a node of servers, even today, maybe not anymore, but at least like 5 years ago, you can still play that game on someone's computer with them, and there would be dozens of people who can join. So, like, it might be asking a bit much to go, like, give us all your code, but at least give us an executable file to run a server somewhere.
Yeah.
The code would be ideal as a coder, but it's that, and the executable that you could install. And yes, it's not supported, it's not getting patched, et cetera, but people would still find ways to reverse engineer that. That's why, Horizon, XI exists. That's why Final Fantasy 11 private servers exist, is people just literally run independently.
People still playing Phantasy Star Online from the Dreamcast because they've, reverse engineered the servers, and people are just still running those. There's a group of people that, still engage with that.
I played the Warhammer Online private server and had an absolute blast. And I looked at it, same thing, because I've talked about this, is that, reason I returned to Final Fantasy 11 was playing Pantheon and was really kind of struggling to kind of get to work on the Steam Deck and controllers. And it's like, the thing that this makes me want to play is Final Fantasy 11. Turns out that runs great on Steam Deck and runs great on controllers. Like, okay, like, what am I doing? Let me just return to that. But it's the same concept. It's, it's already kind of streamlined to the point. That's where with Warhammer, for example, why did I favor Final Fantasy 14 over that? It's like, well, it just made it easy. I can play it in more places, can play it on controller, and that's something that I always kind of look forward to. Guild Wars 2 as well. I said that in my video that I made this week. Literally, Guild Wars 2 and Final Fantasy 11 are the two kind of MMOs that I compare every other MMO and say, I wish they would insert this. And I stated, like, if Guild Wars 2 was controller support on consoles, etc., like, I would have a hard time not playing that game. They just make it real convenient for me to go play something else, which is, like, I think as gamers, we're definitely a path of least to resistance kind of folks at the end of the day. Anyway, I shared a lot of thoughts. I'll let you guys kind of sound off.
Well, I understand the MMO side of it. Like, obviously, we would, if you're playing online, any multiplayer situation, you would want some way to keep playing. I believe older PC games that did, self-hosted servers, or you'd go to like GameSpy and stand up your public server or whatever. If the game quit being supported, you could still play your game. And that's what I think the biggest argument is: the single player side of gaming and the online check-in requirements that a lot of single player games are starting to have. And you got to agree to the EULAs and the scroll through some terms because you're just wanting to hop in and play, Horizon Zero Dawn on your
Mhm.
PC or something.
Single
And
player games with an online requirement is horseshit.
Yeah.
yes,
Because
I agree.
basically they could just kill it at any time, and there's no
And
need.
that's
there's
what
no
happened
need.
with the crew. The crew was perfectly playable single player, but because Ubisoft integrated the online component so heavily, they went, "Oh, the servers are off, so the game no worky. You don't own it anymore." And it's like,
Yeah, it's
we're not
absolute
falling
crap.
for that. Like it's a
Right.
crap reason to
And
tell
look
me.
what Ubisoft has been doing recently. It's like,
Right.
hey, guess what? You F around, you find out. Like people aren't going to be sitting here supporting you,
Right.
especially with that kind of mindset. That's where I think as consumers, we really do have a lot more power. The thing is, and this is what I've advocated for, is that really we need a consumer advocacy group that sits at these boards, because the ESRB, they represent the publishers.
Yeah.
They all they're there is to try and keep government agencies from getting their fingers too much into kind of the industry, which I get, right? Like
Yeah.
there's good regulation and bad regulation, and sometimes you get both with any kind of trade-off. But when it's said and done, it's like it'd be great if we had a seat at the table and we have a vote, but we're so disjointed, and that's where it's like, hey, what can we do? How can games, how can this be more amicable? And I think, like, in my mind, I don't see any downsides to stop killing games. I've seen people try to make a case for some, but I'm like, at the end of the day, I think that's just fear mongering, misunderstanding,
Right.
and then ultimately,
Well, cost is a big one that they try to bring up. Oh, it'll cost so much more in dev. Like we can't afford. You spent $300 million on Concord. You can afford a couple $1 million for like 10 devs for a couple years to figure
Not
this
even.
out.
I'm saying it's not even that. It's, hey, just have an offline like mode ready to go, right?
Yeah. Don't design your game to screw us over from the planning stages.
Right.